So welcome to the fourth session of practicing Metta, loving kindness. So the past 3 weeks we've gone from practicing Metta, wishing kindness or happiness for ourselves, for a neutral person, for a friend, for a loved one. And tonight we're going to practice, the whole thing, at least in my mind, was sort of working up towards practicing towards somebody who's challenging. And so this will be the last in this series. It'll be the last yoga talks, but the last in this series for Metta. And so going back to my explanation at the very beginning of this, I had started this in 2016, this practice, specifically because, and I started the learner series for this, with this book, with the whole idea of I have to find some sort of practice that's going to keep me from my heart just exploding for the next 4 years. And so for me, this was truly to help me not be so overwhelmed with negative emotions towards our president. I'll be very honest. I don't like to talk about politics a whole lot as it pertains to the studio, although, friends know my feelings, but this is important to me because, never before has somebody's face and voice elicited so much emotion, negative emotion for me, that even when I watch segments on like my favorite comedy shows and they show clips or, whatever, like it's just like, and I just feel myself change. And I'm like, this is not how I want to be. And I don't want this person to have that kind of hold on me. And that, because I don't want them to have that kind of power. And that can apply to any person. And so there's a couple ways that I like to think about the practice of loving kindness towards a challenging person or somebody that's hurt you. And this isn't necessarily the words of any Buddhist, Dalai Lama, or anybody. My feelings on it are, number one, I don't want them to have this power over me. But number two is, truly, if I were to think about the people who are the most challenging in my life, whether I know them personally or not, if they were happy, healthy, free from suffering and all of this stuff, then they wouldn't be the challenging person. Then I wouldn't need to have them as my challenging person. You know what I mean?
For sure.
Yeah. So it's in my best interest and many people's best interest to wish for this kind of thing for challenging people. And in the practice of Metta, then you start to notice yourself changing in the way that you respond and react. And that in and of itself has a positive impact on the people around you. So I try really hard, and sometimes not hard enough, to not be the person in the room who is so furious when I'm talking about this. I'd like to try to be a little bit more compassionate than probably what I truly want to feel. Practicing loving kindness towards a challenging person is challenging inherently. There's a reason. This person, your gut reaction is, hell no, I don't want that. Like, I don't want to think positive thoughts to this person. So what we're going to practice tonight is, first we're going to practice a metta practice towards ourselves that we are going to use as an example to use towards the challenging person. So in the past, the last 3 weeks, we've just simply said to ourselves, may I be happy, May I be, what other things? May I be free from fear and anxiety. May I experience peace and joy. And, you know, that in and of itself can be challenging for you or for somebody, because you may not feel like you deserve to be free from pain and suffering, free from fear and anxiety, and experience joy. One person who watched this, one follower of the channel, she emailed me and said that something that came to her, because last week we created our own phrases. She said that she was saying she wanted to be, may I be gentle with myself. And, you know, so the word gentle was something that sort of resonated with her. And so I do encourage you, think of words that, you know, in your own practice, what feels right? What is it that perhaps maybe are words that are challenging for you to say to yourself, for yourself, and then, you know, maybe find a couple other phrases or something like that. So, you know, you don't have to stick with exactly what this is, but we're going to practice metta towards ourselves, but I'm going to mix it up a bit. We're going to think of ourselves as children, whatever age. And if you are somebody who experienced childhood trauma, then perhaps you're thinking of yourself at that age when the trauma was experienced, or perhaps even younger prior to it, and you're thinking of yourself before anything happened, in order to say, like, this little child, this little girl, this little boy deserves happiness and love and all of that, and then carry that forward, and we're going to use that towards the challenging person. So, any questions before we get started?
No.
No. Okay. All right. So, find a comfortable seated position. So we're going to probably be meditating, I don't know, somewhere between 5 and 10 minutes. So we'll see where this goes.
And it could be any challenging person.
First, we're going to start with yourself, though.
Okay.
Yes. Yep. So we're gonna practice on ourselves, and then we're gonna give it a break, and then we're gonna think about the challenging person and hop into them. All right. So find a comfortable seated position. You can be seated in a chair, cross-legged. You can be kneeling, sitting on a bolster, whatever feels comfortable to you. Your eyes can be just gently closed. They can be lightly open. Whatever allows you to feel completely comfortable. Hands can be in your lap or on your thighs, whatever feels best. Just notice your body, your seated position. Notice the weight of your body, supported by blankets, bolsters, the floor, a chair. Notice your breath and how it moves your body. Notice any sounds in the room or outside of the room. Noticing things that are happening right now as a way to become present and stay present. Connecting with your breath or sounds. Picture yourself in your mind, perhaps as you are right now. No judgment. No need for descriptors. Just as if you're looking at a Polaroid of yourself. And then see if you can visualize yourself as quite a bit younger. grade school, 6 or 7, aged 6 or 7. Think about the things that you were concerned about at that age. Think about the things that brought you joy at that age. And we'll practice the first round of Metta. Looking at your young self, say to yourself, may you be free from pain and suffering. May you be free from fear and anxiety. May you experience peace and joy. May you be free from pain and suffering. May you be free from fear and anxiety. May you experience peace and joy. And saying these words to your young self, if even that age is a challenge for you, then perhaps visualize yourself as an infant, or maybe a toddler. Perhaps when you needed the assistance of somebody to help you walk, or to hold you or feed you. Knowing that at any age, but especially as an infant, as a toddler, you did need somebody else. You deserved happiness and love. And so say to that child, may you be free from pain and suffering. May you be free from fear and anxiety. May you experience peace and joy. May you be free from pain and suffering. May you be free from fear and anxiety. May you experience peace and joy. If there are any other words that you would like to say to your young self, repeat them now in your mind. Now those things that you are saying to your young self, say them to yourself now, at this age. Why shouldn't they apply now? And if it feels okay, visualizing yourself now, placing a hand on your shoulder or giving yourself a hug. Smile at yourself and see yourself as happy and healthy and free from suffering. And reach down and grab the hand of your younger self. Or give your younger self a hug. And acknowledge again that you do deserve happiness, love, freedom from suffering. And then when you're ready, start to make your way out of your metta practice, coming back into the room. So it was just under a 10-minute practice. So it doesn't take much to have a good, decent 10-minute practice. So any thoughts that you had, anything that you experienced that was unexpected? Or any words that you have for your experience that you want to share?
I guess I was pleased that I could really visualize myself as a younger person.
Yeah.
So I picked an 8th grade age.
Okay.
I went to a Catholic school. I was making the transition to a public school. And,
You went to public school for high school then?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And so that was kind of a turning point. It was also a turning point in my own personal life as well.
Mm-hmm.
It all kind of went to
Yeah.
down a little bit. And when you mentioned about going then to a younger self, I kind of wanted to stay present still. I had more to say,
Okay.
which was cool.
Yeah.
But I was able to leave that with peace, not sadness, but with peace. And then I went to the toddler, and I've never pictured myself as, like, right now I kind of depend on myself.
Yeah.
And so I figure I can get everything done. I don't need anybody's help. I'm doing this, you know, like kind of that tough.
Yeah.
So it was funny to then picture myself having somebody help me walk. And I felt like, yeah, this does feel good.
No, you,
Like, so
it's an interesting practice. I
yeah,
I agree with you. I think it is an interesting thing to sort of break from that. I'm an independent woman, you know, and it's kind of like none of us are an island. I mean, you know, like I'm sitting here trying to open a Reese cup, which means somebody put this together. Somebody built the machine. Somebody made the chocolate. Somebody, like, there's no way that I am truly 100% independent.
right.
You know, I mean, people made all the things around me. So, but yeah, you know, for something as simple as walking, eating, feeding me, things like that, it is kind of nice to just rely on somebody else and to remember there was a time when you did.
Right.
You
Yeah,
know.
I needed that reminding.
For me, what was interesting is when I thought of words, when I thought of my own words. And so I was thinking to myself, pigtails. I didn't really dress much differently than I do now. Corduroy, t-shirt, whatever. And the things that I was thinking of for myself then were, you know, may you be free to be whoever you want to be. May you be free to make your own choices. May you be happy and carefree. Those were words that I felt like I needed to say to my younger self, which is what encouraged me to say, think of yourself now and think of those same words. Like, why can't I say those things to myself now?
Right.
Why is it any less relevant for me to say to myself now, May you be free to make your own choices. May you be free to be whoever you want to be. May you be happy and carefree. And that was really important to me, to be able to, to recognize, like, when I was younger, I did feel like I was sort of, not held back and, overprotected. And I was sort of guided to be a certain way. So, and then society kind of does that to us now. But is it only just society? I mean, maybe it's a little bit of me too. So giving myself permission to, like, ease off myself a little bit. This next round.
May I ask, how
Yes.
often do people
Practices?
practice metta?
How
As often as you want.
As
But
of-
are there some people that do that daily?
often?
The practice of self and loved one. And
So, like all 4 or 5 or whatever.
mhm.
Not only daily, but for days at a time.
Okay.
I can't remember. One of the books that I'm reading talked about, I don't know if he was actually, probably a monk. Went into the mountains. And this is like contemporary times. Went into the mountain for years, specifically to practice compassion and metta. And that's what this guy did for years, was just sit all by himself and practice compassion towards other people. One of the books that I'm reading, Altered Traits, that I'm reading for my meditation teacher training, talks about, the whole point of the book is providing the background research that actually does say that this amount of compassion practice, meditation compassion practice, does improve various things in your body. It does improve, cognition and, how fast you respond to different questions and things like that. Like, and it shows differently on fMRI scans and things like that. So truly, the practice of compassion does have a positive impact on your body, your physical body, and your emotional self, and thereby has a positive impact on people around you. And what they proved with this also is that truly the longer the amount of time each session, and the longer the amount of time that you have practiced, shows the benefit that you get out of a compassion practice like this. So, yeah.
Is metta compassion and metta kindness the same?
So technically, that's a good question. So technically, compassion and metta are two different things. Practicing compassion is a different practice than metta. Specifically, is loving kindness and essentially wishing happiness for other people and yourself.
So I've heard of metta kindness together. Is that the same thing?
I've never heard of metta kindness. Loving kindness is the definition of metta.
Okay.
The word metta in Pali means loving kindness.
Okay.
So I think if you've heard of metta kindness, it's either blending the word together. Yeah, I'm not sure of that.
Okay.
So, but compassion is technically separate. And one of the things I mentioned in our last discussion was that it's interesting again, in one of the books that I'm reading, the authors were talking to the Dalai Lama, talking about compassion and how when Westerners, let's say Americans, are practicing metta, so we're sort of blending the compassion and the metta practice together, a lot of times Westerners have problems because they have something called self-loathing, which Tibetans don't understand. That's not really a thing. And the Dalai Lama indicated that in Tibetan, the word compassion includes compassion for yourself, whereas we don't define compassion as for ourselves included. We define it as something for other people, so much so that we have a word that is self-compassion. Mm-hmm. So we don't put compassion we don't put ourselves in compassion. Therefore, the practice of metta can be challenging for Westerners when you start with wishing kindness and happiness to yourself first. This last round, we're going to practice on a challenging person. They can be challenged for any kind of reason. This doesn't have to be like the most challenging person, or if you want to just dive into whoever you find the most challenging, somebody who stands out. It can be somebody that's hurt you. This can be past or present. And we will start just like we did with ourselves. I'm going to guide you to start with seeing the person as they are now, or at least at the time when they hurt you or when you felt that they were the most challenging. And then we're going to work back. So we're going to see what that feels like. And then we're going to work back and see them as a child, as a toddler, when they did need somebody else, when they were being raised, and see what that's like to experience that person. You may not even know what that person looked like as a toddler, so let's, assume that they're not independent, that they are dependent upon somebody else, and they're vulnerable. So that's what we're going to practice, and then we're going to see if we can bring it back to as they are now and see what that's like. So, again, find an easy seated position. Make yourself comfortable. Again, your eyes don't have to be closed. They can be a little bit open. And bring to mind this person that you would like to meditate on, the person that you would like to practice metta towards. Somebody who's challenging. Visualize their face, maybe their entire body. And with this person, also visualize, if it's necessary, visualize a thing about them that is distinctive, or perhaps the thing about them that does bring up feelings for you, that this is sort of like the emblem of who they are, or maybe something that they carry that sort of symbolizes them. Visualize this person as they are now, or as they were when you last experienced them. You're facing this person, and remember the feeling that you had for practicing metta towards yourself and for a loved one, and see if you can conjure that kind of feeling up. Maybe not, but just try. And say to this person's face, may you be free from pain and suffering. May you be free from fear and anxiety. May you experience peace and joy. May you be free from pain and suffering. May you be free from fear and anxiety. May you experience peace and joy. May you be free from pain and suffering. May you be free from fear and anxiety. May you experience peace and joy. Now, if it feels right, go ahead and allow that vision, this version of this person to dissolve. And try to bring to mind a younger version of this person, again, maybe as a toddler. So as we envisioned ourselves holding the hand of maybe a parent or a grandparent in order to walk, visualize this person, a much younger version of themselves. as dependent on somebody, because we know that every single human being started out much smaller, much younger than they are now. Every single person needed somebody to help them learn how to walk. Everybody needed to be fed. Everybody wore a diaper. Maybe visualize this person with somebody else holding their hand. Perhaps, maybe you can hold their hand, maybe not yet. But see this child, maybe crouch down and sit at their eye level and say to this child, may you be free from pain and suffering. May you be free from fear and anxiety. May you experience peace and joy. May you be free from pain and suffering. May you be free from fear and anxiety. May you experience peace and joy. May you be free from pain and suffering. May you be free from fear and anxiety. May you experience peace and joy. And if there are any other words you feel like you would like to say to this younger version of this person, do that now. Now see if you can visualize this person again, older, as they are now, and say those same words again. See if you can visualize a feeling from your heart, a connection from your heart, reaching out to this person. If it's not comfortable, if it's not available to you, then don't do it. But if you're willing to try, see if you can make an emotional connection, compassion connection to this person. Maybe reaching out, putting a hand on their shoulder. And allowing any sort of connection between you and this person to dissolve. Allowing bits of your compassion to stay connected, to stay attached to that person, but release the connection. Leave them with feelings of love and happiness. Allow them to drift off. And come back to yourself and slowly release your practice. Come back to the room. What was that like? Was it?
Yeah.
It's
At
interesting.
one point during then, I turned towards myself in judgment for having the negative feelings towards the person. And like became aware, I guess, and thought, oh shoot, I'm gonna have to do round 3 back. Like, it was just weird.
Yeah.
And then I guess I told myself, no, you just needed to be aware.
Yep.
It's okay. And I went back to the person.
Nice. Yeah. It's it is, it's surprising to me how simple yet effective this is. How, now, are you able to actually visualize people? Yeah, okay. And for me, that's powerful. Because I'm also taking that person out of their context of the other things, like the stuff that probably made them who they are, and all of that, and I'm putting them in my context. You know, like, this is my space. Like, I'm not bringing them into my personal space, but I kind of like make a room. Like, okay, this is where you can't touch my stuff. You can't find my journal. You can't get into my heart. But you know, you're in my kitchen maybe. You know, and it's interesting to me to put a person in my space where I have control of the situation, and it makes me feel better, but then it also allows me to be more compassionate to that person because they don't have the stuff around them to bring out the worst of them. You know what I mean? So, I mean, no secret, like, I choose the president. He's on my list. He's top of my list. And so having that guy, although it's still hard for me to say his name, so it won't, but names are powerful things. But it was interesting to me to try to imagine him as a child. First of all, it was very hard to, because I don't know what he looked like as a kid. It's a little bit silly.
I've actually seen cartoons, so
right,
yeah,
and that's the problem. Yeah,
yeah,
like we see
it's
so
not
many.
right.
Right, yeah, and so, but like, think about, like, you know, this person who is, I mean, he put himself in the center of the media and attention. Like, he thrives on it, but at the same time, like, how unfortunate that somebody is so desirous of attention and to be the center of attention that even negative media doesn't matter. So, like, if he didn't have such a negative impact on the entire planet right now, I would be able to feel a little bit more sadness towards his whole personal situation, because it does make me sad that somebody was so unloved to have to seek it in all of these ways. So that's not to excuse, you know, the things that he does, because as an adult you gotta grow up and, you know, do something with that. But anyway, I think it is very powerful to be able to just simply visualize a person as younger, because it's true. Like, there's nobody who hasn't needed somebody else to teach them how to walk, and to do things for them, and you know, so seeing somebody as vulnerable like that does help me. And it puts some things into perspective, and even some other people that I consider the challenging people in my life, like, recognizing that, like, you know, they do need other people, and they are deserving of happiness and all of these things.
Can you share more what you mean by bringing them into your space?
Yeah. So, well,
because I think I went into their space.
Yeah. So my thing is, and this,
like that.
It's different for other people perhaps, but for example, let me take the president again. So he's at his worst when he's in front of a crowd, media, the press, around other basically around other people. right? And so for me, I'm putting him in pretty much like this white foggy room that has nothing else around it. He has nothing else that, like, there's no camera, there's nothing for him to play to. And it's just him and I and nothing else. And putting him in a room where there's truly nothing for him to be able to get from me. And we've talked about, it's a different practice, Tonglen, where you're doing that giving and receiving,
Right.
giving and taking anyway. Where you sort of put up a protective barrier. Like, this person is so challenging and is such an energy vampire and an emotion vampire. That I don't want him to have any chance of taking anything of mine. So, bare bones, white room, nothing interesting. Or, like, if trying to visualize somebody in just an empty space is challenging, then maybe saying, okay, you can sit in my kitchen. I'll make you a cup of coffee. That's it. Because, like, there's nothing personal. I mean, of course, my kitchen is me. But it's not my bedroom. You're not going to find, like, my underwear.
Right.
So that's what I mean by putting them in. It's similar to me where, like, as a yoga teacher, I create an environment for people to come into, and I want it to be, a space where they feel as comfortable as possible. Mm-hmm. But I'm kind of in control of that environment, because as a yoga teacher in an open business, anybody can walk in the front door. And I want to make sure that I'm protecting myself first, because I need to feel protected in order to therefore protect everybody else in the room. So that's kind of where I'm coming at from putting a challenging person, when I'm visualizing it, putting them in my space that I control. And it's not a personal space. It's not personalized. It doesn't have all of my stuff in it. So that's what I mean.
I like that, because there's a sense, as you mentioned, protection. Mm-hmm. Because then, if you've practiced this metta towards this person, and they come back again and do some silly thing,
yeah,
where you feel an ouch from them, it's not because you've set them up in a space or whatever. It's not as personal, maybe, the next time. I don't know.
Right.
I guess I'd have to see how it worked out.
Yeah, because the problem is when, at least with me, when visualizing things, my imagination can run wild. So even when I was giving the example of putting somebody in my kitchen, I have a bunch of sharp knives in my kitchen. So what if they got a knife and stabbed me? Okay, so maybe not my kitchen. Putting someplace, having these visualizations where you're in a space where there's no way for your imagination to go sideways and turn this into something else. Mm-hmm. It's like you always want to be very careful with your energy when you're around people. Like, for example, Thai yoga massage. I have to be very careful that I don't go sideways in any kind of visualization that turns into anything but just emotions for giving a massage. Right. Like, if I start to get weird emotions, then I need to back off and disconnect. Because that's not what this is about. Right. So in a visualization, like, I would never do metta towards anybody, really, even if it was somebody I loved, like in my bedroom. So I think context matters.
Mm-hmm. That's helpful.
Yeah. Because at least for me, visualization is very powerful. Some people, visualization is hard, and so it's emotion or colors or something else. Or maybe they can smell. There's a smell that they can bring up in their minds or something. So everybody practices a different way, and no way is wrong. But you do always want to make sure that you're taking care of yourself. Even if it's not just a challenging person, and even if you're practicing the metta towards yourself. Be kind to yourself, just as, the one gal said, be gentle with yourself. Mm-hmm. It's important. Yeah. So, that was Metta, and I do recommend, as you asked, like I mean, practice it whenever. You know, when you meet a new person, practice Metta, and you don't even have to sit in an official like meditative position or whatever. Like, you know, at the grocery store, or you know, driving.
Like do it driving.
Yeah, like especially like people with road rage or whatever. Mm-hmm. Like, you know, if somebody's like driving crazy, like they're late to something, like think about, okay, first of all, you don't know. 9 times out of 10, they're probably not doing it to be an asshole. You know, like, what if they're late? What if like somebody in their family died and they're just trying to get there? You know, we just don't know. We project our things onto these people. So, you know, practice Metta anywhere, and you can practice Metta towards your pets too.
Very effective.
So this is the last Yoga Talks, at least for now. Starting the second Wednesday in January, which is in fact actually January 9th, because the first Wednesday is the 2nd. So I've been lying. So the first learner series is January 9th, and we're going to be practicing mindfulness, mindful eating, breathing, walking, moving, whatever you name it. We're going to practice it for 6 weeks. We'll take 2 weeks off. And again, Patreon patrons that are at the $20 or higher level will be able to stream it for free. Then everybody can, you know, you can obviously sign up for the class and come in person, $10. And if you can't stream it free, then it'll be recorded. And that's that.
Good.
Yeah, so thank you.